All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're decoding the complex Islamic theology surrounding the unseen world, the true nature of jinn, and the incredibly strict rules governing magic. We're going way past the Hollywood fairy tales and digging into the classic texts to understand exactly how jinn, magic, and Islam intersect. Let's get into it. So, what would you do if an entire parallel civilization was existing right beneath your nose? I mean, literally sharing your space. Imagine a completely invisible society living alongside us, experiencing life, conflict, and death just like we do. Well, according to Islamic tradition, that's exactly how our world works. It's not just empty space around us, it's a shared environment teeming with complex, hidden societies. Here's our roadmap for this explainer. We'll start with the hidden parallel world, then look at the true nature of jinn, followed by the mechanics of sihr, the Arabic occult tradition, and finally, the forbidden boundary. Section 1. The hidden parallel world living behind the veil. Now, the linguistics here are actually super fascinating. The word jinn comes from the Arabic root letters J, N, N, which literally means to conceal or hide. And classical theology makes a profound connection here. This exact same root gives us the Arabic word for a fetus, janeen, because, it's concealed in the mother's womb. It also gives us the word for insanity, junoon, since it conceals a person's intellect. So the very name of these beings screams their defining characteristic. They are entirely hidden from our physical sight, existing in the realm of El-Ghaib, the unseen. Moving on to Section 2. The true nature of jinn, myths versus reality. Right off the bat, there's a fundamental, physical difference between humans and jinn. Foundational texts tell us that humans trace their origins to clay and wet earth. That gives us a heavy, tangible, material existence. We're grounded. Jinn, on the other hand, are created from smokeless, essential fire. Because they come from fire rather than earth, they have a completely light, intangible nature. This is exactly why the texts say jinn can fly, travel insanely fast, and remain completely invisible to us. And they have a massive historical footprint. Long before Adam and humanity ever arrived on the scene, the jinn were already created and actually ruled the earth. They built societies, but they also caused a lot of bloodshed and corruption. Fast forward to the era of Prophet Suleiman, or Solomon, who was granted miraculous dominion over them. He commanded these powerful jinn to build massive monuments and dive into the oceans for resources. Later, during the prophetic era of Muhammad, Islamic scriptures state the Quran was revealed as guidance for both humans and jinn, and some actually embraced the faith. So the tradition confirms they have free will and intellect. They definitely aren't the mindless spirits or wish-granting genies you see in movies. They form massive societies, tribes, and hold entirely diverse religious beliefs. You've got Muslim jinn, Christian jinn, and disbelieving jinn. They also go through normal life cycles. They eat, sleep, get married, and eventually they die. But most importantly, because they have free will, they are fully accountable to God. They face the exact same spiritual tests as humans do, ultimately ending up in either paradise or hellfire. All right, Section 3. The mechanics of sihr, the transaction of magic. Islamic theology is super explicit about this. Magic, or sihr, is not just some vague mystical energy floating in the universe. It's a very specific transactional pact of mutual loss. Here's how it works. A human magician deliberately commits an extreme act of kufr, or disbelief, often desecrating holy texts or sacrificing to entities other than God. Because of this massive spiritual degradation, evil jinn, known as shayateen, answer the call. The magician asks the jinn to cause an affliction. A really common example in the Quran is sowing discord to break up a husband and wife. But here's the catch. This pact always leads to mutual spiritual ruin. The evil jinn's ultimate goal is just to drag the human into disbelief and hellfire right along with them. Now, this is an absolutely crucial point. Despite their long lives, their invisibility, and their incredible speed, jinn absolutely do not know the future. They do not possess knowledge of the true unseen. The texts describe how rebellious jinn will try to fly up to the lower heavens, basically to eavesdrop on the angels. If they manage to snatch a tiny fragment of truth before being chased away by shooting stars, they pass that one truth down to a human fortune teller, but only after mixing it with 100 lies. That's what creates the illusion of supernatural foresight. Which brings us to Section 4, the Arabic occult tradition, focusing on the Shams al-Ma'arif. We're going to neutrally examine this historical text, the Shams al-Ma'arif, or the Sun of Knowledge. Written back in the 13th century, it's arguably the single most influential grimoire in the Arabic occult tradition. It's a dense, complex book detailing rituals where practitioners historically tried to invoke angels and jinn. And why? Usually to achieve worldly desires like immense wealth, political power, or protection from their enemies. The esoteric methods detailed in these texts are wildly systematic. They lean heavily on Ilm al-Huruf, which is the science of letters and divine names. Practitioners used really precise astrological timing, calculating planetary hours to execute their spells. There was also geomancy, or sand cutting, to read spiritual signs. But honestly, the most controversial part, these grimoires deeply integrated specific Quranic verses to create talismanic magic. They literally used the holy text itself to try and manipulate the unseen world. As you can imagine, this creates a massive, highly debated tension between occult history and Orthodox Islamic faith. And mainstream exegesis shows that the Quran actually explicitly recognizes the reality and the danger of these practices. In chapter 11, believers are literally commanded to seek protection from God against the evil of those who blow on knots. This is a direct reference to a well-known method of sorcery, where someone would tie knots in a string or hair and blow incantations over them to bind or harm their victim. It's a pretty striking acknowledgement of magic right there in the scriptural text. Finally, Section 5, the forbidden boundary, the strict penalties in Islam. Because of all this, mainstream Islam has absolutely uncompromising penalties for anyone trying to breach that veil. Practicing magic isn't just frowned upon. It's classified as one of the 7 deadliest major sins, completely removing a person from the fold of faith. Even just casually consulting a fortune teller comes with a huge penalty. Your daily prayers are entirely rejected for 40 consecutive days. And if you go a step further and actually believe what the fortune teller predicts about the future, scholars state you fundamentally disbelieved in the message revealed to Prophet Muhammad. But hey, amidst all these heavy warnings about dark pacts and unseen entities, the theology actually offers a very clear safety net. Islamic theology universally emphasizes that while seher is a real phenomenon with real effects, it holds zero independent power. None. Neither the jinn, nor the magician, nor the spell can harm a single person unless God explicitly permits it to happen as a test. The ultimate power and sovereignty, that always remains firmly and entirely with God. So I want to leave you with this thought. Considering the incredibly strict warnings and the massive spiritual cost we've seen in these texts, are we wise enough to just leave the veil of the unseen intact? Or will the intoxicating human curiosity for forbidden power and hidden knowledge always tempt us toward our own ruin? It really makes you think about the limits of human boundaries, right? It just shows how deeply structured the Islamic perspective on the unseen world truly is. Well, that wraps up our explainer. Thanks so much for exploring this fascinating topic with me.